Hello, my name is Sean Flowers, and this is the meeting, the first Meet the Trainer actually on March 11th, and this is for the Northern California IIT coming up in July of 2026. And I'm here with co-organizer Eric Wong, and we also have Don Goyer today, who is also on the organizing team. And I'd love to introduce you all to Mary Goyer, who is our first trainer kicking us off with this Meet the Trainer event. Mary is located in Northern California, and I actually just got back from a retreat with Mary, and the way that Mary just brings her presence and her experience is fantastic, and I'm looking forward for you all getting a chance to experience Mary today. So take it away, Mary.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. So lovely. Some of you could make it. I know we just kind of put this on the calendar not so long ago, and the other trainers will be in the following months, so you'll have a little bit more time to plan. But yeah, I really was excited to jump on and talk, just do a little slice of some content that's I think really powerful and certainly has been in my life, and offer you just this little morsel that can be really actionable today. I want to talk about obligation and exploring. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my slides. I made just a few of them for those of you that like the visual, um, to talk about obligation and willingness in the context of, yeah, how does this all tie in? When folks come to NVC events or come to the book, they're often really interested in, there's some things I hear over and over again. How do I set boundaries? But in a needs-based way, based on skills, with my skills, with compassion, speaking up for my needs, to really like allow myself to come to the forefront. Managing burnout, this is something that I'm hearing a lot more about these days, whether it's because of somebody's kind of like whatever's going on in your individual life or what's happening systemically, in the larger geopolitical. It's a lot. And this topic also is really about building trust where there has been ruptures. And so one of the things that we'll kind of focus on in order to, like I said, make it super tangible, we'll talk a little bit about conditioning and how some of the things that most of us have learned over all of our years since childhood, um, makes it really hard to get in touch with our true willingness, and so hearing and saying no can be tricky for folks. And so we'll talk about some of the basics. You'll have a chance then to hear from Sean and the crew about the event in July for those that are interested. But that's what I have in mind for today. And I just love those of you that are on, just some, I don't know, you can just give me like, you can give me a digital or an actual like thumbs up, or, some kind of sign that like this looks good, sounds good. Yeah, we're all here. Thank you. I'm coming a little bit off of a cold, so I can hear in my voice a little bit of scratchiness. So forgive that. But uh, if I have to cough or clear, well, so be it. Um, a tiny bit about me. Many of you don't know me. I'm a mom. There's my little one there in the picture, of a 5-year-old, a very precocious and energetic one. And there's his dad. I'm also non-romantic co-parenting partner with my son's dad. And then work-wise, yeah, I do one-on-one work with folks, executive uh, coaching, and working with leaders in schools, leaders in organizations, facilitation work, and then also the Grok cards. Some of you may have heard of them. All I have are the kids Grok right here, but I'm a partner in this company. We sell the empathy products that maybe some of you have gotten to explore. So I stay busy. And this is a skill that has supported me a ton, knowing when and how to say no and maintain connection. And so I would love for you to unmute and or type in the chat. What is it that makes it hard sometimes to say no? What makes it difficult? Why is this for so many of us kind of a touchy subject or a difficult thing to do? I'm going to stop my share for just a minute so I can see faces better and see the chat easier. Yeah, fear of rejection, not wanting to offend people. Yeah, the people pleasing. Fear of disappointing. Mm-hmm. What else comes to mind? Yeah, oh, I missed one. Yeah, like we like to solve problems. Yeah, scared of what will come back, wanting to fit in, wanting to belong. Totally. I'm just gonna see if there's any exit fear, disappointing, feeling like it's something no one else will do. Yeah, in touch with yeah, the times that we overstretch, it's sort of like, yeah, what will happen if I say no? Will anybody step in to fill a vacuum, right? Yeah, so there's all of these that make it difficult. And fear of rejection, one of the first ones that was listed there is the one that I hear the most. There's something really key here that I want to, so I'm going to go back into the slides to say a few more things about. And some of these kind of got mentioned, and I just want to unpack them a bit. So, yeah, we have for most of our lives, most of us have been taught that if you're a caring, cooperative person, you say yes. This is what it means to be good. This is like the good girl or the good boy, conditioning. And so saying no really can trigger fears of being seen as selfish or difficult or unkind. And and so a lot of us kind of internalize this process of making lots of self-demands that like when a question comes our way to kind of give an automatic yes. And with this idea that like our belonging, our belonging and some would even say sort of our survival kind of gets all tied up in this because yeah, we rejection, especially when we're little ones, is uh, is something that kind of gets held in our bodies as lack of safety, right? So lifelong conditioning to be good is something that can impact everybody, even if you do have like a little inner rebel inside of you, you're still sort of responding to the sort of the good bad paradigm that we talk about so much in NVC and how to kind of get out of it. So that also ties in a little bit to number two, that moralistic thinking and right, wrong. All of these can get so conflated together. The when choices are sort of framed as good or bad, then yeah, no can feel like if I say no, then I'm doing something wrong, rather than simply expressing my preference or my capacity, my willingness. Um, I can tell you that my little one who is still very in touch with his no, it's like sometimes it's still kind of like my conditioning is still so present, and so it can still sort of jar me every now and then. Like even just a day or two ago, he's coughing and sneezing. We're all a little bit sick out and without covering up, and when I asked him to cover up, he goes, "No." And I was just like, no. Oh, okay. It's like there's certain requests that feel so reasonable, right? And that can get tied up into this sort of moralistic thinking. Um, Somebody mentioned in the chat people pleasing, and we get so much reinforcement, right? When we do things that support harmony or approval in the short term, and in the long run can be a big piece of overextending and like being worried about, you know, the risks of disappointing somebody or the tension that can happen. And I think number four was also sort of a fear that saying no will damage or kind of like cause a little rupture in a relationship. And when somebody said something about like, what will I get back? Or, kind of like, what will the impact be? And I want to speak to number four a little bit in terms of there are sometimes people that come to NVC trainings, and when we're talking about the steps to saying no, we'll say something like, oh, well, um, yeah, I mean, like this doesn't come up for me. I have no problem saying no. And there's two things that tend to be the case I've learned when I kind of ask some follow-up questions for folks like that. One is that they are in they have structural power, and they're saying no to people that have less structural power. That's one place that for most of us, it's pretty easy. It's not a big deal to say no. But the other thing is related to this piece about connection. And so when I say, do you have a sense that you know how to say no with connection while maintaining connection? Um, that's a lot of times when folks will say like, oh, well, actually, I'm not really tracking that. I don't know. Like I just kind of say it and leave it. And so in NVC, I mean, there are certainly times when no is a complete sentence, and you can absolutely um, say it and not have a reason, or sometimes you're not tracking connection. Sometimes connection isn't the top need at play. But but one of the things that's important in the context of this conversation is that, yeah, when we don't have skills for dialogue, we may really have the experience that no sort of shuts something down in a relationship rather than opening something back up, opening up a conversation, supporting a dialogue that kind of gives us a chance to see what kinds of better strategies may be available. So I'm going to pause slides again and see if anybody has questions or thoughts or anything coming up so far. And I'll check the chat as well as give you a moment just to see what's stirring. It's, yeah, unmute yourself and comment. And I've got the background as a teacher, so like I'm kind of like comfortable like waiting. I don't mind a little bit of an awkward silence while you think and kind of process. But I would love to hear it from at least one person and something that's going on, just so I can get a sense of how this is landing so far. It gives me a chance to rest my voice a bit too.
I can share. Your last point about the maintaining power over and having it not be a problem to say no in those instances. Um, I was like, yeah, good point. Because when I think about my kids, that point number four about the, fear of damaging the relationship and that kind of
Mhm,
thing. I also have a fear with my oldest daughter of, an emotional rupture
mhm,
happening that will escalate us and then land me in a place of, some sort of regret and using power over tools. And so
mhm.
that's a bit of a vicious cycle. But anyway, I just the power over point, I just really could relate to.
Mhm. And that's specifically in saying no, it sounds like, and kind of worrying about like how that will land in them and then what will happen otherwise. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and somebody else in the chat is saying nothing new's coming up. Sounds like familiar concepts. Great. Um, just making sure we're all kind of in sync. Yeah, and um so we'll go for another 10, 15 minutes or so here, and then we'll have a chance to turn it over to the other team. Um, so just again, just a little bit more framing, and then we'll go into a practice. And maybe I'll even do if we have enough time, I'll do a little bit of coaching with somebody. Um, So the ideal here is instead of yes being equivalent to acquiescing and overstretching and submitting, certainly people pleasing, we want to see if we can get to a place where our yeses really more and more, at least move the needle, right? Match expression of needs. And inherently, our needs will generally balance for care for others and care for yourself. There's something about saying yes to our needs that sometimes people worry means I'm gonna kind of like only focus on myself. But what I find is that, like, no, I mean, when we are really in touch with, because of how interdependent we are, when we're really in touch with needs, um, we will have the desire to kind of like tend to others as well as our own self. That's kind of the nice both and that we play with in NVC. It's not an either or. Um, and so, yeah, no, then in this ideal is not about being difficult or being seen as somebody who pushes back, and so on. This is about really having clarity about what's in capacity for any of us at any given time, what's in our willingness. Like sometimes, and yeah, sometimes our preference, but being able to kind of articulate when like, it's not my preference to do that, but I am willing, or, I'm not willing. I'm low on capacity. Um, this is what really ties all of this into trust building, and to starting to do more dialogue. So, does anybody have an example of something that is hard to say no to? So we're going to go into a little practice here. I want to share a couple of steps, but I'd love to see if there's like a specific thing that anybody wants to do a piece of work on. Chocolate chip cookies. That's not like that's a relatable one actually, I think for a lot of us, something in terms of food, hearing our authentic no's and yeses there. Hmm. Maybe else have one. Let's generate a few and then we'll tie it all in. What's something else that you would maybe want to say no to? You can type it in the chat if you don't want to say it for the video. Mm. People asking for financial support to attend an event I'm part of. Yeah. Uh-huh. Does anybody have it like being asked to help around at home or to do something extra or part of a team? Yeah, family caregiving. Totally. Yes. Yeah, when somebody wants your attention and you have your focus elsewhere, when you're deeply engaged in something that you want to complete first. Yeah. So, family wants you to be there more, but it's hard with work. Okay. Great. Thank you. It's always nice to have like real examples. Oh, I see one more popped in. Yeah, meeting up with somebody, saying no to plans. Um, I don't know if anybody else had this, but like post-pandemic, well, it's also related to potentially like becoming a mom right at the same time, but like saying yes and no to plans is very different for me now than it used to be. All right. Oh, one more. Immediate family members asked me to do something that I could do, but it would involve not taking care of myself. Um, and then this idea of I have to help because I can, even if it costs. Yeah. So here's what I want to play with is these are 4 steps that I love in helping. Okay, one more came through, saying no to students requesting more time from after a deadline is passed. So the first thing, especially if you find yourself in the people pleaser camp. I mean, where are my people pleasers? Because I'm probably not the only one here. Okay. Um, Number one is such a great step for 2 reasons. One is it helps you to get the information that you need, but it also buys some time. If you have that initial impulse to be like, okay, to be the kind of the automatic yes person, I love to get clarity about like, okay, so what exactly do you have in mind? You know, um, like when do you need me? When does this start? Whatever. And so this also gives you a little bit more clarity about what their specific needs are, and that's going to help you later on. So, for example, if a friend asked me to help her move, I might start by saying something like this. Okay, so okay, so you need this on Saturday. Are you wanting, like, can you give me a sense of the timeline, et cetera, et cetera? And it ties into step 2, where I'm going to guess her needs. So is it that like you're wanting help with the heavy things? Like you want help, like, I don't know, packing up the moving van or getting boxes ready for the movers, whatever, like you know, what is it? And then they can kind of clarify. So 1 and 2 sort of go together. Um, well, no, it's not that. It's I'm feeling emotional about this move and wanting somebody to be there with me. Then it's like, oh, okay. So like you're wanting company. Like you want emotional support, right? And all of this does something really powerful just by itself, and that is that it lets them know that their request matters, that you care about it, that you care about their needs, and so you're not trying to do like a robotic needs guess. You really are like, what about this is important to you? What about it matters the most? And then when it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you want some company on Saturday, that makes total sense. Now, for our purposes, we're going to assume that I still do want to say no. I mean, it might be that sometimes when you hear the details of their request, you change your mind. Whoops, sorry. That comes in a bit. Um, but um, but the next piece is that you surface the needs of yours that are behind your no. And this is something we call an MVC. What's the yes behind the no? But I also personally really enjoy letting people know if I have mixed feelings. And so it's like I'm feeling torn because, like our friendship is so important to me. This is a big move and I would really love to be there for you. Um, I did make plans with my nephew on Saturday. And during the morning, we are going to go and do a hike together. And so I really do want to stick with that. Like my needs are for maybe say integrity or trust or connection with him. So I might, to be conversational, I might say like, at the same time, I really want to follow through. I want to stick to my plans and he's counting on me and that matters to me. Um, but I'm curious, do you have any ideas? I'm going to go to step 4 now, start to look at, what other possibilities might exist. Do you have any other ideas about how I could give you some kind of support that day, and spend time with him? Like, what about if I sent you a text in the morning letting you know I'm thinking of you? Or, is there somebody else that can come over? And then what if, my friend might say, well, do you think you could come hang out after you're done with your nephew? Like maybe you can come to my new place and have dinner in the evening and visit while I unpack. You know, it's lovely to see what happens when you think of no as the beginning of this dialogue, the beginning of a conversation. You know, in when we're talking about the distinction between a request and a demand in NVC, one of the big pieces is like, is there a willingness to hear a no? And when you have the sense that no is potentially the thing that's going to allow for more needs to be met, then it really is kind of, it starts to become, dare I say, a pleasure to hear somebody's no a little bit more often, like, huh, oh, okay, like I wasn't in touch with something that makes this workable. So let's find out how to come up with an idea that's more robust, right? Now, I mean, in my example, an alternate strategy that made it workable. And, I acknowledge that sometimes that's not the case, that either you can't think of anything or you're not in a space where you want to do a lot of problem solving or, like let's say the whole point is like I'm focused over here. I want to keep my focus where it is versus talk, etc. Um, in those cases, step four can include mourning. If there isn't a solution, if we're having, Mickey Cashton calls it a crisis of imagination. I think it came from her sister in Ball. But yeah, if we have a crisis of imagination, we can hold that together. Okay. So um, I'm going to just stop share right now and see. We just have a minute or two left, and I want to give you a few practices that you can play with in addition to these steps. But see if there's any questions about these and how they kind of can look. And does anybody have one that they want a little bit of help workshopping? Like, how would I do what would some of the verbiage sound like? We can probably take maybe just one if that's needed. Yeah. hmm Yeah, kind of breaks it down and makes it really clear. So in the chat saying sounds like doable steps. Thank you. Good. So clarifying the request, guessing their needs, expressing the needs behind your no. Um, I'll show this one now because these are sort of my two magic phrases that I lean on quite a bit as a people pleaser in training, coming back to from people pleaser to interdependent one. I like to give myself time. Let me think a minute. That helps me a ton in terms of like even remembering to engage with any of this versus whatever my default is. And then I love saying I'm torn because it's my way of kind of opening up the piece about like, yeah, this your needs matter to me. The fact that you're asking for help, I appreciate that, or I would love to be able to help. And yet right now it's a no for me for X, Y, or Z reasons. No. Now, in terms of practice, so one of the things you can do is start looking for opportunities to say no, low stakes opportunities, and I want you to though with the caveat, be mindful of power, structural power when you choose this. Like you might find that it's edgy or helpful to kind of try saying no to a food server or to a clerk, at the grocery store. But there's like a power piece at play there. So just notice that, and that's fine if that's where you want to start. But like, oh yeah, what can happen if I say no in times when I sense somebody's resourced, or especially when it comes to family? How can I kind of practice this in places where I think it's going to be more doable? Um, this one, especially for the power part, I like to invite more no's from people. And I do it very like explicitly and say, like, I'm okay hearing a no about this. Is there any part of you that's a no? Is there any part of this that doesn't work for you? you know and saying no and hearing no are flip sides of the same coin clearly. And the more that you can kind of change in you how it feels to hear a no, where it's like, okay, that's just the beginning, makes a big difference in terms of that programming. If you come into the with this like, oh, if I'm saying no, it's going to tie me into all that good, bad, right, wrong stuff that we were talking about earlier. Um, Looking for the yes behind the no. What are they saying yes to? Or what am I trying to say yes to as I say no to something else? And by the way, this works when you're just making a request of yourself. Like when I'm, for example, trying to decide whether to try to do another little bit of work on a day when I'm tired, or like right now when I'm a little bit sick, like, okay, like if I'm saying no to this, what am I saying yes to? And what are those needs that are involved? And then do I want to keep making that decision? And then this one is one of my favorites, and that is, if we had a little bit more time, we would be diving into this as a group. But yeah, a post rehearsal. This is something in NVC we do, which is basically you take something that didn't go the way you wish it had, and you practice it. And you get like a new template, that you can almost like download into your brain that you can use for the next time. So yeah, thinking about a time when you said yes and you know that it was an overstretch or that it wasn't authentic. What do you wish you had done instead? To support the connection that you were probably trying to go for, but that would have also kind of kept you in touch with your authentic needs at that moment. So, four different practices, highlighting the top one, that's kind of like um, the most common practice for this, but just different little ins that you can try if any of those support. All right, questions or comments before I turn it over back to you, Sean? Okay, we got something coming up in, yeah. Okay, so there's a question. What if my no causes the other person to be angry and say judgmental things to me? Like, what if they have some strong emotions surrounding my no? Oh, so this would be, I would love to, if we have time, if we're in a space together, if you come to the IIT, we can actually like run through some of the different moves. But I will just for now say the first thing that comes to mind is, pulling out that empathy skill that hopefully you have in your back pocket at any given time to go like, oh yeah, so it's hard to hear this no right now because in your mind you're worried that it means da 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 da, you know. And so you can go into that empathy piece to see if you understand and you can translate whatever their judgments are, and it gives you more information about their feelings and needs. So empathy is the like answer in a word. What I will also say is that when people are making a request, they are often making the request at the level of content and at the meta level underneath. I'm just going to venture to say every request is, will you let me know that you matter to me? Or that I matter to you, rather. Sorry. Will you let me know that I matter? Like, like if I say yes, it means that I care about you and you matter. And if I say no, a lot of times if there's some kind of like a reaction like you're saying, like you're worried about, it can mean that people are sort of interpreting the no as not mattering. So that's my favorite like empathy guess to kind of like think about first, is like, can I say something to let them know that this relationship really is important to me, or that like, yeah, whatever this thing is that they're asking for, of course they need help with it, etc. Yeah, great question. Thank you. Okay. Sean, I think I'll turn it back to you. Just looking at the time.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks so
Mhm.
much. All right. Well, those of you who are on video or not on video, if you want to share a reaction of how that was, maybe show of hands if there was something that you're walking away with. Oh, thanks. Thank you so much, Mary. So, yeah, you can learn more about what Mary's doing on Mary's website, marygoyer.com. Dawn just put that in the chat, and then of course we'll be with Mary in person for our intensive in July. So now is the time. We have just about 20 minutes left in this Meet the Trainer event. That if anyone has questions about all the other parts of the IIT, the logistics, the schedule, the venue, you're welcome to ask them, and we are here to chat about that. Yeah, so you're welcome to put it in the chat or come off mute and ask your questions if you have those. Yeah. And I'll just say a few things about the venue, and I'll be watching the chat if anyone puts questions in. So we'll be at Mount Madonna. Um, Eric and I co-hosted an IIT at Mount Madonna 2 years ago, and so we're familiar with the venue. It's on a mountain, as the name suggests, and so it's beautiful, it's surrounded by nature, it's really quiet, and the venue itself, there's big spacious meeting rooms, there's a dining hall with beautiful views down the mountain. So it's really a retreat in all of the senses. And I see that someone raised their hand. I'd love to answer. Is it Melosa?
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to interrupt your flow, though. There's no rush if you want to finish what
Well,
you're
I
thinking.
was just sharing, and I would really love to answer your question if you have a specific one.
Um, so I understand there's this retreat in July, and then there's the retreat in April. And I'm
Yeah,
wondering if you can speak to what's the difference. I know one's 5 days and one's 9 days, but is there anything else?
absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much. And I wanted to acknowledge I saw your email and I've been talking with the team as well, because there's Mary on the team, and then we'll have 4 or 5 other trainers. And so let's see, I'll share a few things, and then if Mary wants to add. A big difference is that the IIT is twice as long. And for to clue everyone else in, the other event that Melosa was asking about is it's in a similar area. It's at the Ben Lomond Quaker Center, and that's an event that Mary and Kristen are putting on for new NVC people. So a few differences is the one in April at Ben Lomond is geared more towards beginners who have little to no experience with NVC. And and then the IIT is more so open to everyone. So oftentimes at an IIT, we'll get someone who just read the book last week and they're new and they signed up. And then there's also practitioners who have been doing, practicing, living, sharing NVC for 20 plus years who come as participants as well. So at an IIT, I would say there's a wider variety of people there. It's also a lot larger. I'm guessing the Ben Lomond retreat will be in the 20s in terms of amount of participants. And the IIT, we're expecting to have at least 80 and perhaps 100 or more. So I think last time we had about 100. And so it's just more opportunity, a wider um, group of people in terms of background and where people are coming from and cultures. I think there's a wider opportunity there. And I'll pause there. Does that answer some questions? Do you have any follow-up questions, Melosa?
Sure. Yeah. You mentioned July, a wider, let's see, kind of diversity. And could you speak to that? I think
As a person of color, I consider myself mixed race, but it's always nice to be in the room with other people that look like me, or my
Yeah.
husband. And
Yeah.
so I'm wondering, yeah, if you can speak to that piece, a greater diversity in the July versus April, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one thing I'll say is that we, because there's a wider amount of people that come, there's oftentimes a greater diversity at the IIT. And also, I think Mary might have something to add on that too, because the IIT has, will have 5 or 6 trainers. And so the trainers, based on their following, a lot of people come who follow them. And so, like Mika Manawa, for example, she does a lot of work in the NVC world, but specifically with diversity and equity work. And so a lot of people she's in contact with and inviting to the IIT do have, I think, a wider diverse background. And that's one thing I'll say. Do you want to add to that, Mary?
Yeah, sure. I think that the IIT will definitely be more diverse. You know, like in Santa Cruz, the groups are just more homogenous in certainly in terms of race, and you know, and some of the other intersections as well. Although you know, we do have some diversity in certain ways, but yeah, the IIT is sort of designed to be to bring people from different nationalities and lots of different experiences together, and to you know bridge those divides, bridge the gaps between you know various experiences. It's really, I think, part of what it's meant to do. Um, so, you know, like the experiences are very different in terms of like intimacy, but yeah, in terms of diversity, I think that's a really easy one to say the IIT will be more.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question. And if you have any more too, you're welcome to email us, and we can also hop on a call if there's anyone specifically you'd like to chat with too.
Great.
Sure.
Yeah, I have more questions, but I want to let other people ask questions first. So
Okay. Okay, so let's see. We have questions. Number of participants. As I mentioned, we're expecting to have at least 80 people there. And in terms of the style of exercise and daily flows of the day, yeah, that's a common question. I will answer that. And I also wanted to let you know we have a document called the Helpful Details. And Dawn, if you could find the link and grab that for the chat, that would be wonderful. So, arrival day and departure day are a little different. They're half days, so that people can arrive and get settled and be welcomed. And in terms of the full days at the retreat, there's oftentimes a morning offering, a community morning offering before breakfast, and then there's breakfast, and then we do community circles all together. So this is the morning and the late afternoon, we have an opportunity to gather as one big group with all the trainers, all the organizers, all the participants. And so that happens in the morning, and then we break off mid-morning into the trainer sessions. So there will be concurrent sessions happening, probably 3 or 4 sessions at one time. So you can choose. And that's the beauty for me of the IIT is that there are so many options and you can really choose your own way. And then after that session, there's lunch, and then there's typically rest or integration time or home group time. Home group is something which we highly recommend for the supportive structure of the IIT because there's so many people there. It can be quite overwhelming. And so home group is a structure we set up with typically groups of 4 people. And so it's an opportunity where you can gather with the same group of people every day at the retreat. And for a lot of people, it can be a very grounding and connecting practice together with a small group of people because there's so much going on in IIT and so many people. So that's a little about home group. And then after home group is the second session of the day with the trainer. So again, concurrent sessions. And then we have the closing circle of the day where we gather all together. And then we will have dinner. And then after dinner, the third main session of the day is an opportunity for the community to share offerings typically. And so, as I mentioned, there's oftentimes participants at an IIT who have been practicing and sharing NVC for a while as well. And so sometimes those people will share, or other people who are masters in their own skill, maybe yoga or group singing or something completely different. So it's a really beautiful way to see who's at an IIT and what people offer is surprising and delightful for me every time. So that's a bit about that, and I went real quick through that, and again the that schedule is written out, a sample schedule in our helpful details document, and so you can go look at that if you want to take more of a finer look at it. So that is one question we have. The next one. NVC in the workplace. Yes, Mary just answered that. Mary does a lot of NVC in the workplace since Mary's worked with a lot of executive companies. And that's the beauty of the concurrent sessions. Maybe you don't want to do NVC in the workplace. Maybe you want to do more how to get along with your family. There will most likely be sessions with that. And I saw Carlos raised hand.
Yeah, I put a question in the chat.
Okay.
It was the one about the couples. I don't know if you've got to it.
Great, thank you. I was just going to get to that. So, I would say that IIT is not specifically focused on couples, but there are often a handful of couples that come. The IITs I've been to, I think there's been at least 3 or 4 couples at each one. And again, what I like about the concurrent sessions is you can choose to go to different sessions if you're interested in different things than your partner, and at the same time you could choose to go to a session and then utilize the skills and the practices in that session. So I would say that even though it's not specifically for couples, the couples who have been have found it very connecting in terms of your learning skills together and growing and experiencing the NVC community together. Do you have any more questions on that?
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's see. Is the IIT geared toward a particular type of background, coaches, therapists? I would say it's not. It's open to everyone. And I would say at IITs, there's people who come who are coaches because they're in the line of this being a passion or a hobby or part of their profession. And at the same time, it's really a mixed bag. There's lots of people who are, you know, in different stages and ages of life, young people just starting college or in the middle of college, or perhaps in the middle of raising young children or their grandparents. I've seen really all different stages and walks of life as well. And let's see. Okay. Any more? Any more? Yes, Melissa.
Yeah, there's scholarships available for the April retreat and for the July retreat at this point.
Great question. I will answer for the July retreat first. We do have partial scholarships available, and I'll ask Dawn to put that in the chat. So the way that it's set up is, there we go. So once you pre-register, which I know most people on this call are pre-registered, it just means you've selected you're interested. And then you can go to the payment page. That's where you'll find the financial assistance application. And so the main thing we like to share with people when they're filling that out, what to keep in mind is for these retreats, because they're put on by the Center for Nonviolent Communication, which is a global organization, the tuition is separate from the room and board. So the room and board goes directly to the location, Mount Madonna, and then the tuition goes to the CNVC, and that's what covers the trainer fee and all the other logistic fees. And so the financial aid can cover parts of the tuition, but not the room and board. So we just like to share that with people so you can figure that out, how it works in your budget in terms of which room and board you want to choose, and then how much you can offer for a tuition. Does that make sense? Any questions on that?
Yes.
Okay,
No.
great. For those who want to apply for financial assistance, if you can do that in the next week, it will put you in the first round of reviewing applications where we do the application review with a committee of other people who work for the Center for Nonviolent Communication, and we'll be reviewing that within the next few weeks and then getting back to folks. Yeah. We're really committed to getting as many people there as possible, and Eric has come up with many creative strategies in the past to to really help our financial assistance scholarship money be allocated to as many people as we can. Yeah. Okay, we have about 5 minutes left. Are there any more questions people have thought of? I see Dawn put in the helpful details. Thank you, Dawn. Does anyone else, I know Mary, Dawn, and Eric have been to the venue before. Would any of you like to add any highlights about the venue we're gonna be at?
I will. It's beautiful. I loved going there. I'm so excited we get to go back.
Yeah.
It was a fast yes in terms of going back. It's like, you're just driving, and then all of a sudden it's just like gorgeous forest and views. It feels, I mean, like it's beautiful in the main, like in the dining room, the main room. I mean, it's just like I've been to a lot of retreat venues, and yeah, it's really nice there. It's very peaceful.
Yeah, I would also say that that was the first part that was striking for me, was just suddenly being in a burst of redwoods. But then also, there's a yoga community that sort of owns and operates and runs the entire place. And there's just a lot of other features in on the grounds there that are really nice to have, and including yoga classes and things. We tend to put on our own offerings and stuff as well. But yeah, it was just a really nurturing place to be. And I imagine in July it's on the helpful details sheet, but the weather would be probably fantastic up there on the mountain. And yeah, it was just a really great experience for me.
Thanks, Dawn. Yeah. Okay, and I see someone way back asked about the getting to and from the airport, and that was answered. So I'll just say a bit about that for those who are listening to the recording. So I think the San Jose airport is about an hour away from Mount Madonna, and people can take an Uber there. There's unfortunately no public transportation, but one thing, since there are so many people arriving at the same time on the same day, there's a carpool sheet that's created closer to the event, and so participants can link up with each other and share who's getting a car, who needs a ride, who can give a ride, and so there's a lot of opportunities to share rides in that way and make it more accessible to get there. Yep. Okay. Well, if there's not any more questions, I think we'll sign off for today. Yeah. I really appreciated seeing you here and that you joined us for the first Meet the Trainer event. And we'll have our next one on April 8th with Kristen Masters, and we'll be sending out the invite for that one shortly.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you,
Best of
Kelly.
luck.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melosa. Thanks for coming. Bye, Shine. Thanks for coming. Bye, Barb.
Bye, Sean and Don. Thank you.
Good to see
Nice to see
you.
you.
Great to see you, Shine.
You too.
Okay.
Peace. Namaskar.
Stay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.